Pain heals. Chicks dig scars. Glory lasts forever.
Welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for checking out this video. Appreciate all your support as always. Hope you're having a fantastic day. And of course, a shout out to the 19, all of you. So I have a few clips I want to share, but they're all relatively short. Amber Cox, GM of Indiana Fever, some of her thoughts about this season, as well as Stephanie White on the same topic. DeWanna Bonner as well, with an added comment, an added piece of insight that I thought was kind of fascinating. And at the end, I have a bonus for you that was not really worth me trying to stretch into another video, but it is kind of fun. I think think it's worth sharing to have a laugh. I think you're going to enjoy that. So let's dig in right here. This is Amber Cox talking about expectations she was asked about with the Indiana Fever this season and beyond, to be fair.
Yeah, I mean, I think, listen, we're in this to win championships. It doesn't happen overnight. We've got a lot of work to do. It looks great on paper. Again, we're 3 days in. But that's always the expect. We want that to be the standard. That is the standard that has been set here in Indiana with Tamika Catchings and championships in the past. We want to get back to that. That's the goal. So we're certainly focused on that. And I think, again, when you bring in these players who have championship experience and have been there, some that are on the back half of their career, they're very motivated, and they bring a different level of intensity to a practice, to a workout, to everything we're doing, in showing our younger players how to do things the right way and what it takes to get to that level. So certainly we have aspirations to do that. This league is insanely good. Every night is difficult, so we know, you got to have a lot of luck, you got to have good health, you got to have that chemistry really come together, but that's always our goal, is to hang a banner.
There you go. The goal is a championship. The goal is to hang a banner. The goal is to get back to what it was like when Tamika Catchings was there, which to me, I'm hearing this from everyone. And it is fascinating. I know you get, and the reason I think it's fascinating, because you get a lot of people that'll talk about, well, isn't that the goal? Aren't they supposed to? Well, yeah. So ordinary people, it seems like that, right? But if you look at a lot of organizations, and I'm sure a number of you have been fans of teams in other sports, maybe, and maybe you don't have that, and you think, you're just mediocre all the time. It just doesn't seem like the team is there to win a championship. They're just going to play each season and they're going to play it out and they're going to go get players. And I can speak to that as with the Sixers and the Eagles. Okay, I feel like I'm experiencing on both ends. The Sixers, in no way does it seem like we have an ownership that's whose goal is to win a championship. As bizarre as that may sound to some, it's just not there. The owner doesn't care. I wish the owner was gone. I really hope we can force him to sell the team just because he simply doesn't care about winning. He doesn't really care about the Sixers. And then the opposite of that is the Eagles. For the past, you know, almost 30 years now, Jeffrey Lurie has owned this team, and his goal is to be the class of the NFL in terms of what players get when they come here, facilities, coaching, the opportunities and everything. And the goal is to always win a championship. And it is hard. And like I think Amber makes another great point. You can have the best team and not win a championship because so many other things come into play that you not necessarily can control. Falls at the specific times, right? Injuries, as she talked about, being healthy all season. There's just a lot of other things that play into it that make it very, very difficult to win championships. And it's important to know that, but it's also important to have an organization whose goal is to be that class of the league where the goal is championships. You know deep down that it's really hard and you're not going to win one every year, but that is the goal. And I mean, again, Eagles are a great example for, they've had some bad years here and there, but for the most part of the last 20, 25 years, they've been a really, really good football team with, I don't know, what, 7 in the last 25 years, 7 or 8 NFC championship games, been to 4 Super Bowls in that time, winning 2 of them, and the goal every year is to get back and win. So I think it's and you don't hear a lot of you believe it or not, don't hear a lot of people talk like this. So I thought it was really interesting to hear Amber talk about that. That's the goal. That's the goal, is every year we want to do that. And then Stephanie White it's not Stephanie White. It's DeWanna Bonner. We'll get to her in a second, but Stephanie White kind of follows on to that. And I think she makes another key point, which is really interesting as well.
To play in the WNBA. And so the talent level across the board is as deep as it's ever been. And, you know, pressure is a privilege. It is. Like we all know, everybody who's been a part of a team, everybody who's won championships, everybody who's been a part of growing something special knows that a lot of things have to fall in line for you to win a championship. They do. That's why it's so incredibly difficult. But we're not shying away from the fact that we want to win a championship, that we want to position ourselves every single day to win a championship.
How did you land on unity as your opening message?
What's that?
How did you land on unity as your opening message?
Well, because we have the deepest team probably that I've ever been a part of, it takes everybody, and it takes sacrifice. There are players who probably should be in rotation that might not be at times. There are players who probably should be playing more minutes that won't be at times. There are players who have open shots that pass up the shot to get the best shot on the floor. Everybody's going to have to sacrifice at some point for us to be as good as we can be. And so if you talk to people who have won championships, they talk about being stars in your role. They talk about playing outside of position. They talk about not being in rotation, right? And we have players on our team that have won championships that have done just that. They haven't been the superstars. They haven't been the one that's been asked to score all the points, right? Or to make all the assists. They've been asked to be role players and stars in their role, sometimes not playing to having to be thrown out into the fire and staying ready. And that's what it's going to take. So we have to be unified. We have to be together in everything that we do. We have to sacrifice for the Indiana Fever.
All right. Again, echoing Amber in terms of the goal is always to win a championship. And then, I'm sorry, it's actually two things that I think were really interesting that she said or fascinating. First, pressure is a privilege. 100%. That is how it has to be approached. I'm glad she thinks that because you know that's the message she's going to convey to the team. And far too many players shy away from pressure. They don't like pressure. They fold under pressure. And yet, if you are an athlete, especially at this level, and there is no pressure, you're not playing for anything. You might, other than getting paid, you might as well just be down at the neighborhood court chucking up shots. Pressure is a privilege because that means you've reached a level and you're in a situation at that level that matters, or the outcome truly matters. You know, you're shooting free throws at the end of an elimination game and making them send you on to the next round, or missing them send you home. That's all. You know how many people would love to be in that situation? So yeah, please, Stephanie, keep pounding that message. Pressure is absolutely a privilege. It's something I talk about with my players all the time. And then, of course, the end. So true, so difficult. This is another aspect of what Amber was saying, yet in a different way. You know, she talked about those external things that make it really difficult, whether it's health, schedule, calls, all that type of stuff. And then Stephanie brings up a part that's so huge internally within a team. And as crazy as it sounds, look, when you're an athlete at this level, you have a little bit of arrogance, you have a little bit of selfishness. They all have it, and it's controlling it is what makes you truly great, especially within the team. Because when you are deep, like she said, you know, we're 8, 9 deep. We're 8, 9 players that can start. I believe she said. I'm not sure if I played that part or I just listened to it earlier. And you know, we can go 10 deep in a rotation. When you can do that, yeah, you like it's like talked about in that video on the shots. These players, all these players are not going to get the number of shots they're used to because there just aren't enough shots in the game. And that's going to go for minutes as well at times. Players who are used to a lot of minutes might be playing 10, 15, 20. They might sit an entire game. And so it's going to be how does that player react? And throughout the year, it's going to be different players. How do they react to that? How does the rest of the team react to them if they react in a negative way? So that they all keep the main thing, which is winning a championship. And it is so much more difficult. Any of you that have played sports understand how difficult that can be. If you've ever been in a situation, even if it's a youth league championship, if you're playing with kids that it matters to them, you know what I'm talking about, how difficult that can be to sort of scale back what's happening to you for the good of the team. So I thought that was really, really interesting. And it's going to be interesting, as I've said before, to see how the Fever handle that situation when we get into times where certain players maybe aren't getting the shots they're used to or even playing the minutes that they're used to, how does that impact the team? How do they react? So that's going to be really, really interesting. It's definitely something to look for as the season goes. And then DeWanna Bonner, this is a short clip talking about that. But again, she adds something else that I think is absolutely fascinating that I believe all of you will absolutely appreciate as well.
They want to win. That's all I needed. That's all I need to hear. They want to win. They wanted to be led. They didn't have any experience last year in playoffs. It's totally different. So just taking the mindset on from the beginning, I feel like that's been our mindset in training camp. And they've just been really receptive to me being the leader, but also I've been following them a little bit too because, like I said, no one understands playing in this type of environment but the people who've done it, and just listening to them, it's been really refreshing.
So, yeah, a couple things there. Obviously, she starts out, she's talking about being recruited to come to the Fever. And as I was just saying, Amber, Kelly, Stephanie, it's all about winning championships. And Bonner's like, yeah. And I know, read between the lines, right? Because as Fever fans who are watching this, you all know what she's talking about there. She got in contact with the players here. And I'm sure Kelsey, can't remember the timeline now, so I don't know when she talked to say Kelsey Mitchell, but Kelsey Mitchell probably coming back was a big deal as well for DeWanna Bonner. Or I think anyway, I can't remember the timeline. I don't know. Obviously, I don't even know when she talked to Kelsey. If she did, I'm sure that's one of the players she did. But she wanted to hear from players who played here. Hey, is all this stuff going around from the rest of the league and the media true? And clearly, she heard, no, it's not. The fans are great. The fans are amazing to play in front of. The fans support the team. The fans are going to embrace you. You were the enemy. That's just the way it works. I didn't want DeWanna Bonner playing well when she was on Connecticut. Come on now. But she's here now. And so she heard all of that from the players who had to experience it directly all season long. And they told her, yeah, come play here. You're going to love it. The fans aren't what they say that they are. So I thought that was really cool insight as well. And one last thing I'm going to close it out with just for a little fun. I don't know if any of you have ever done this. I've done this. It's crazy, and it's crazy to see the kind of pressure players will put on themselves at times too, and to see how they get ready and how they focus. So this is only about a minute long, but it's kind of surprising, which is another reason that I'm gonna play it for you. So let's dig in and see how some of these players do.
Can I use any hand? Oh god, this is stressful. Get out of here. Get out of here.
Okay, Sophie nailed it, but also I had to laugh at that because honestly, that is exactly how my players would react anywhere from like age 9 to 18. And here's Sophie. How old is she now? 28. And she's acting like a 12-year-old doing this. Very interesting technique. Not one I would recommend with the two hands grabbing it. Well, anyway, but yeah, but she got them all. So, who am I to say?
Get out of here. Okay. 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 Yep. Okay. Yep. No. Yeah. Okay.
All right, if I may, just critique Sid a little bit. Her issue is, and I get it, if you haven't done this, right, it was simply that technique, man, trying to grab him by letting the bottom hit your hand. It's gonna bounce just like it did. Like her reflexes, she was there and she was timing it, but she's gonna learn. Go watch some of these others, and you got to grab them. You got to grab them. You can't let that bottom hit your hand. It's gonna bounce.
Go.
Natasha had it, but I almost think that was a little just in watching her, maybe a little tougher for the taller players, or I guess they can adjust the height, but she just seemed closer to them, so she's got to get to them quicker. And then I think they actually got. Is this an indication, y'all? Is this the one rook making the team? Because they got Michaela in here.
Go. Get it. Get it.
She's doing it the normal way. She's doing it the normal way, right? You gotta grab it with one hand, quickly put it in the other. That's the best technique, I'm telling you. Here, all right, can I just say, Caitlin, I'm going to throw some shade, but I would love to see you get in that stance of defense more often. I'm just saying, right? Here's where she's got a little more of that lower stance. She's got the butt down. She's not bent over at the waist so much.
Two, one, go.
Nice. Oh! Ah! Caitlin!
Caitlin Clark was the worst, and she didn't even let that last one drop. Right, there's that competitiveness that gets in your way. Sometimes she was like, "F this, I'm done. I sucked. I'm not even grabbing this last one. I'm frustrated." And I will say this again, technique. I don't know if she's ever done this before, and I know it sounds silly, but grabbing it the way she did is right. One hand, grab it like that, but then you gotta quickly put it in the other hand. Don't leave them all in the same hand that you're grabbing with. Are you crazy? You could do it with maybe one, but then you're gonna find yourself in trouble. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there. I thought this was really interesting, even though it got a lot longer than I expected. See, I should have broken it up into multiple videos. I gotta start doing that like 12 video a day thing that some people do. Anyway, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Really do appreciate all your support. Go have the day you deserve. I will talk to you later.